Good evening and welcome to the Convo Lab. I am your hostess with the mostest, Kayren Cathcart, and this is the kickoff of season 3 of the Convo Lab. I can't believe we've been doing this for so many episodes, bringing you fantastic, awesome conversational collaborations, but I have another treat for you this week. This Season 3 is being kicked off with none other than Prisca Benson, Money Coach. So I'm going to bring her onto the stage and say, welcome, Prisca.
Hi.
How
Hi,
are
Kayren.
you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, I've got to say, I am interested in learning a little bit more about you and what led you to becoming a money coach. But before that, we might need to start with, what is a money coach?
In very basic terms, a money coach helps you get good with money. So like a lot of people specialize in different areas. I help professional women grow, save and grow their money and help them meet their money goals. So that might include, getting rid of debt if that's something they have. If they're trying to build up their savings, if they're trying to gather enough money to invest, because some people feel like they don't even have enough to do that. I'm here to help and make sense of it all, because the jargon can be a little confusing.
I definitely agree. I have worked in financial services for 2 decades, and there's still jargon that goes right over my head. So tell me a bit about your background, because you're not in financial services. You're actually a nurse by training.
Yes. So I went to Rutgers for nursing, and I graduated in 2011. And my first love, my first calling. But what I recognized afterwards is how ignorant I guess I was about money. So it all started because even when I was growing up, I'm first generation American. My family's Haitian. The way that our parents had to raise us was more for survival. So there was 2 ways my parents did it. My dad, he was a big saver, so all his money was in the bank. My mom was a big fan of the debt. She just loved swiping the card. So, either habit is, neither is the greatest for growing your money long term. It's great for the survival part, but not for the thriving part. So after I got graduated out of college and I got my nurse money, I was like, woo, and I'm starting to buy stuff and, swiping the card, because I picked up the debt part instead of the daddy part. And then eventually the only reason I realized this was a big mistake was because I got married, and my husband, who didn't have any debt, was able to do stuff with his paychecks, and I could not. I was like, okay, we got to change this up. So we together planned to get rid of my debt, simplified our life to be well within our means. And then even then, though, I was like, wow, okay, around 2018, I'm like, I don't have debt, but still my money, I'm making nurse money, but I don't see none of it still,
That's right there.
So then I was started listening to some podcasts, reading some books, and then little by little, I was breaking all sorts of beliefs I had about my money in order to grow it. So from 2018 to now, grew my investment accounts over $200,000.
Wow, that is impressive.
Thank you.
I want to go back to that, what you said. I was making nurse money, but I wasn't seeing it. And I think that with direct deposit, I love it. I appreciate it. I also feel like it's like my check is spent before I even get it. It's like, yeah, okay, it might be payday. I might go and treat myself, pick up, a health and beauty item, or go do something, little something here, a little treat, or go to a meal. But I'm like, it's already allocated. How do we handle that, Prisca? Because we work hard, but we want to have a rich life, right?
Absolutely. Big fan of that. So honestly, the first thing is to actually take a real solid look at what you have coming in, what you have coming out. So a lot of times I would recommend people to collect, a few months of, maybe depending on how your paychecks go, maybe 3 months of your credit card or debit card receipt, expenses statements, and just look to see where you're spending your money. It is shocking when you
It
look
is.
as how these things add up. Sometimes I literally look at my credit card statement. I'm like, I don't understand how 1 and plus 1 equals 2. Like it's looking like 3 right now, but but it is equal. So these things add up. So if we're not intentional about our purchases, then it's going to feel that way. But if we take the time to like look at our money and then decide, okay, this much is going to go into savings, this much going to go into investing, and then you can do whatever you want with the rest, it won't feel like you can't enjoy your money.
I like that. So you talked about being intentional and also having a plan. But first, we have to start with tracking. Now, it sounds like a whole lot of moving parts. Do people generally come to you feeling overwhelmed? And how do
Very
you
much so.
help them
Very
to just calm down long enough to listen to you?
So first, the first thing that happens is knowing that this is not uncommon. You know, a lot of people do feel like I should know better or I should be doing better. It's not an automatic thing. Most of us, especially people of my generation, it's now that they're trying to put financial literacy in schools, but most of us literally wing it. Okay, you know, until we get to where we need to be. So we shouldn't feel shame or, you know, just embarrassed about the fact that we don't know what to do. It's not natural. We have to learn it. And so that's why I like to empower people too. Like, don't look at it as this is something impossible to do. Anybody can do it. So it's just, but you have to look at it. You have to stare it in the face. It's the first step.
I took myself off camera so I could have a come to Jesus moment. Staring at it, looking at it, being real. What if the picture is not that pretty? I know you talked about some mindset shifts that happened over some weeks, months, and maybe years before
Mm-hmm.
your investment account got
Yeah,
all nice and fatified.
that's true.
What do we do if we're starting at a place where our thoughts are like, I am never going to get out of this debt, or I will never be able to save enough to do XYZ?
So a lot of people feel that way. However, I also think of the examples of the people who have done it. So I like to look at people who have, there's people who had way more debt than I've ever seen. There's people who have come from like very low income, very like very hard lives, and have been able to accomplish things. What makes you so special that it won't work for you? There's nothing particularly special about you that it wouldn't work for you. So therefore, I'm a big fan of like, if somebody could do it, I could do it. And so that's what I want to promote to other people. Like, don't feel like you're beneath anyone. You just have to find the right steps for you. Sometimes the thing that makes stop people too, they tried other things. It's like, oh, I saw this, I tried this budget, I tried this, and it didn't work because it wasn't made for you. And that's the benefit of coaching, because coaching, while you can try to figure this out yourself, if you've been struggling with this for years, you're missing out on returns, you're missing out on interest, you're missing out on a chance for your life to be better, because you're wasting time trying to figure it out on your own. If you find yourself that you've been struggling, find people. Sometimes it could be in your friend group that people are very good at this, but if not, coaching is a very, very good idea.
I agree. There's nothing like having that accountability from somebody who is going to hold your feet to the fire and come back and check with you in 2 weeks and say, okay, you said you wanted to do this 2 weeks ago. What steps have you taken towards making progress on this goal? Not saying, okay, you should have achieved this and beaten you down, but saying, okay, if you haven't done anything on it, how can I partner with you to get started? And if you have, how can I help you to keep moving forward? That is a wonderful thing that I love about coaching.
Yeah.
And that you're not by yourself.
So agreed. And that extra bit of support and somebody who's not going to judge you, because sometimes a lot of people, the reason that they don't share the stuff with their friends, they're so embarrassed to say that they have debt. They don't want anybody in their business. So it's sometimes nice to have this little thing working in the background. It's like, okay, I'm gonna fix this. Nobody got to know. And when I come out on top, everybody's gonna see me. You know?
So let me ask you, your coaching is one-on-one and not group, it sounds like.
Yeah. One-on-one.
Okay, so for all of y'all out there who are pretty private and don't want folk in your business, if you get Coach Prisca Benson as your money coach, she gonna keep everything on the hush until you decide to tell people how big your investment account has grown because of being
That's right.
disciplined and changing your spending habits and paying attention, being mindful. Okay. See, y'all, I do these Convo Lab interviews for me and for you because we need to grow. We cannot stay the same. So if we have been exposed to the information, but we're not putting it into practice, now's the time. Today is a great day for
That's
us
right.
to hit the reset button, right? We don't have to start from square one. We can just
Agreed.
start from where we are.
Agreed. And that's a big thing that I'm always also sharing with people is that, you know, with coaching, it is about where you are, even the way you handle things. You know, we're not gonna, I don't say we, as a coach, I'm not gonna sit here and try to make you into a duplicate of me. Your plan has to be your own. It has to be something you love. And it's funny because like I'm like one of my clients today, she's like, oh, you know, like I can see how much I could pay off my debt so fast. You know, once she has a certain thing she's working on now, but that's gonna be her next thing. It's like if I could have you know, amassed all this money for this goal, why can't I plow out my debt? She's like, I can't wait for this to be over. And then when she started, she was just like, nah, this is never gonna happen. Like I don't even anticipate being debt free. So, and this person has variable income. They don't make a crap ton of money like nurses do. So it can happen for everyone, and it's meeting you where you're at to get to where you want to be.
I agree. And I think that's really important that we not compare ourselves to one another because one person may have children, another may not. One may be in one stage of life or level of maturity. Your experiences have impact, and that can impact your credit score where you might find yourself. So we have to give ourselves grace, would you say?
Absolutely. And it's got to be, there was one time I saw something in a Facebook group and I was just like, this person asked, you know, how much are you putting in retirement? Not me particularly. She asked the group, you know, how much are you putting in retirement? I just want to see if I'm doing better or worse. I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to ask that question. Not saying that it's a stupid question, but what is me telling you what I can do, not knowing my fiscal situation, going to help you? You know, I have no kids. If you have 3 kids, you can't compare yourself to me. Like, that's not fair to you for you to do that. You know, if you're taking care of an elderly family member, if you had a bunch of student loan debt, everybody's targets is different. Some people want to amass money just for the sake of being rich. And if they want to do that, the amount they put in retirement may seem ridiculous, but that's up to them, you know? So no comparison. I don't want anybody to feel below one another or like they're not hitting the targets that people say they need to make. Those targets used to make me feel bad. I was like, you know what? I'm not playing with that. I'm gonna do the best I can to get to where I want to be.
I like that. And the funny thing is, I had to check myself through the years working in financial services because it's like, what is wrong with me? I work around money. I'm like, I'm not sitting in the middle of a room full of gold bars. So I was like, okay, what are the things that have impacted how I look at money? Okay, is it invisible? Does it even exist? Is this something tangible to me? Is it just a concept? Then I started looking around me and I'm like, okay, whether people are making 6 figures or whether they're hourly, everybody was waiting for payday. I'm like, I'm thinking that these people at the executive levels are just, straight because they driving these, luxury vehicles and they live in certain neighborhoods or whatever. And I said, you know what? Everybody is working and everybody has bills to pay. It's just a matter of how you manage what comes in and what goes out. And then the thing that really got me, one day I was in the lobby and there was a store and people were lined up to get their scratch off tickets for the lottery. I'm like, we work at a bank. And I mean, a range of people, and my jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe it. I was like, so all of these folks are playing this game of chance because they don't already have the amount of money that can satisfy. So let's transition to talking about that. Like once people hit these goals, that dealing with that satisfaction or level of achievement or celebrating, how do you approach that as a coach?
So one is actually setting goals. A lot of people, they don't set like intentional goals. So people will say something like, I want $10,000 in the bank, or I want $1 million in the bank. But for what? How are you planning on doing it? And if you don't have a reason for that goal, then you'll never be satisfied. Even if when you reach that number, it's like, okay, what does it mean? You know, so you have to give each goal, not only you want it to be specific, you want it to be measurable, you want it to be relevant, you want it to be time bound, but you also want to make it something that matters to you. So that's the relevant part. No, not just some figurative number, that's some societal norm that says that you should, if you have this much, then you'll be rich. No, what are you going to do once you have that? So for some people, that might mean I can go part-time now. For some people, that might mean I can take an extra vacation with my family, you know, travel the world. I could pay for my kids' college. Like, those numbers have to mean something to you. That's what the way we see our money has to be based on our values and things that matter to us. And then once you reach that, you feel good about it. Versus if it's just
so glad you said that. Yeah, values. It can't. I think we've really been tainted by all of these fabulosity shows with, you know, I gotta admit, I have been in love with the ones that have the before and after and the bring, and then you see all these sparkles come across the screen, and it's like, oh, before they were living here, but now they live here, and everything's all sparkling and shiny and clean. Is that really real? Like, okay,
this is a secret on that, though.
Have a vehicle that you drive and you upgrade it and you happen to hit something, for example, asking for a friend. I mean, it's just going to be a more expensive vehicle that you got to take in for a repair.
Agreed. And that's the thing. And
there's something backing up today. So I'm grateful for bumpers.
Yeah, some people don't factor that into when you're upgrading your life like that. You're also upgrading your expenses. So while your Toyota was fine yesterday, now today you want to drive a Lexus. Okay, fine. But your insurance is likely going to go up because the car is more expensive. Maintenance is going to go up. All these things add up to where before it was like, oh, this is just, maybe you just thought about the car payment. And you're like, oh, I could handle that. But did you factor all these other things in?
And even with maintenance.
Yes, maintenance too.
And tires.
And
oil changes.
Tires.
All of that.
My cousin has a Mazda. She was like, I don't know about these tires. Can you imagine?
Okay, and let's even go to the gas, like premium. Like,
agreed.
I just am not.
Yeah.
Because of my background, the way I was raised. I'm always going to look for where is the cheapest gas station. My husband gets on me. He's like, seriously, you're going to drive 3 miles out of the way to go and save 5 cents a gallon? I'm like, yes, because it's cheaper. But I'm learning to reprogram that and say, okay, time, I'm already here. Okay. And how many gallons? 10 gallons, 5 cents saved, really? So you know, it's a lot to unlearn those things that were
very much so. Very much so. And the interesting thing too about the other thing you're talking about, the before and afters with a lot of these TV shows, a lot of the times, I mean, it's interesting how many articles you can find on how these people couldn't afford those changes. So even if, you know, let's just say HGTV or whatever was covering it, the taxes go straight up. This is the cost. It's not just the thing you're doing, the thing you're upgrading. There's costs associated with it. You have a bigger house, which means more taxes, more maintenance. And if something breaks,
I ain't gonna say nothing because we had a couple of little kitchen, what are those things called? Appliances. And it's like, refrigerator, I'm gonna have to lay hands on you because you can't go out right now. We just ain't got time for this. And you're not in this month's budget. So and I like that because you're telling us, yeah, you might have more next month than you did this month, but if you can't enjoy it, or you're just allocating it to be spent more, are you really gaining?
That's right.
Well, Prisca, I'm going to throw your website up. Now, you started a blog. How long ago? A few years ago?
2020.
Okay. Tell us about ourgreenlifenj.com and what Convo Lab listeners can find there that you have curated.
So I started Our Green Life in 2020 because I wanted a place for personal finance and health content to live. So as a nurse, the health content was kind of important to me, helping people to access care in an affordable way, because I don't like our people not going to the doctor because they say it's too expensive. Okay.
Amen.
So
Go to the doctor, y'all.
That's it. We want you to live long and healthy lives, right? So, but a lot of times money feels like a limiting factor for that. So I wanted it to be there also for when I love to talk about money, but not everybody likes to talk about it, right? So I wanted a place for reliable information about money to be shared so that if any, especially my friends or family, they wanted to learn about something, they could just go straight to the website. So that's how it exists currently.
Okay, fantastic. And I really like the fact that you are putting those two together, because you can have all the money in the world, and if your health isn't doing well, how are you going to enjoy it? We got to be around and stick around to be able to appreciate what we accumulate. I wasn't even trying to rhyme, but you just inspired me, girl.
Agreed. And there's tons of free content out there to help people, manage their money well.
Thank you so much for making that available to us. So there it is right there on your screen, folks. Ourgreenlifenj.com. Prisca has put some fantastic resources there for our health and our wealth. Now, let me see. Your slogan on there is where health meets finance for a better life. And I just love that slogan.
Thank you. It actually just reminds me too of the little backstory of how Our Green Life even came to be named, because it's kind of a vague name. It doesn't tell you what it is. But I
thought it was something about the environment, honestly, when I met you.
After you look it up,
she's a tree hugger.
Yeah. But the our part is to be inclusive, because I don't want people to feel like they can't achieve the things that are on this website. You can grow your wealth. You can live a healthy life. There are very minimal things some things we cannot change, especially when it comes to our health, but a lot of things are in our power. So I want to make sure that it's a very inclusive brand. And then also green is associated with funds. And also when, as a nurse, we do labs, and the green means that lab is good. Okay. So that is also right. And then just life, because it's covering your whole life. I really feel like there's a few fundamental like pillars in our lives that we want to have a happy, healthy life. And I think that money and health are two of them.
I agree. Now tell us a little bit about how you're enjoying this new stage in your life. You've got a nest egg, you've got some savings. Perhaps it caused you to look at the pandemic differently?
So yes and yes, actually, because at the time, the reason I was saying yes and no at first is because the pandemic created a little bit of a complication where my husband's work became inconsistent going forward. So the reason I said no, I said yes and no, I'll focus on the no part first, is because the way we established and kind of curated our life made it so his income was not required. And as a nurse, our money's a little bit more consistent, so even though it was like sometimes we went from double income to a single income household, the lights never got even threatened to be cut off, the bills were always paid, and it was such a stress reducer. If you're in a pandemic, right, and all this stuff was stressing you out, it's so comforting that your money is not one of those things. It was such a relief. But the one thing it did adapt me to like learn that was great about learning through the pandemic is the fact that having a plan does make a difference. If you I think there's nothing like a pandemic that turned everything upside down. Yes was no, left was right. It was just chaos. But but like I said, like having this plan meant that there was less stress. There were like once things started even lifting, like sometimes people just went out and went shopping and, we maintain the same habits, and habits are a big part of making anything successful. Nothing went crazy, and it created such peace in my life. So I think that,
Wow.
just having that structure for yourself and a plan that you're confident in, that you can continue to implement successfully. You may always have to tweak things. Like I had to change my budget because of the fact that we were went from double to single income sometimes. So like the amount I was saving, I had to bring down a little bit, but not so much so that it, affected anything.
I really like your levelness, that you approach it in an incremental way. Maybe that's because of your healthcare background. Somebody may not lose 30 pounds in a week. Just might not be in the cards. However, if we make those choices, those changes, and those habits, we will see some transition. And so I think you're giving us hope and reminding us that if we take steps in the direction of our structured plan, we will make progress.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes it's easy to get lost, especially when it comes to personal finance content. It's like, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. I need an emergency fund, but I need to invest and I have to pay off this debt and all that. Take one thing at a time. Okay. At the foundation of any plan is you got to build up your savings. Okay. That's where you start. And then these other things can layer on top of each other, which is the kind of the nuance that you may want to coach for, but you got to start with savings. If you can't figure out where your money's going, you're never going to be successful with the other things. So don't bother trying to invest when you don't even know where your money is going. Like it's doing too much. So start at step one and then gradually work your way up. No matter what strategies you decide to follow, there's a lot of, different patterns of how to, manage your money that you may follow. You can do that, but all of it starts with savings. Like there's nobody that tells you to start at the end. The people who tell you to start at the end, they're not people. They're here to make money. They're here to make money. They're not humans like you and me.
That is too much. Prisca has just told us like it is, like it's got you.
That's very much my personality.
I love it. I wanted to share this one little story. When I first started working straight out of college, I was making a nice salary in telecommunications, and my mother, who was a teacher with a master's, was like, "Girl, you're making more than I am. I've been in my field for years." And so I was like, "Okay," but when I got that W-2, I was terrified to open it, and I'm gonna tell you why. I was scared that I was going to tear it up the wrong way. Like it had those perforations. I kid you not. And so that was tied to my anxiety about what was like, I'm getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. What is the issue? Why am I afraid to open this thing? So I had to face that years later as a married person. Like I got the W-2 and I handed it to my husband. And I was like, okay, I don't have to be afraid. Piece of paper that represents the work that I've been doing. But I mean, we have so many things layered and ingrained that we might not have even realized or addressed. Coaching, y'all, is a great way to change many different factors of your life. So you might be going which was Prisca about getting your money straight, but she's gonna deal with you on your habits. Like, okay, well now, if you feel like you gotta treat yourself and every time you gotta whip out a card, let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's important to try to figure out what makes us tick. Because I mean, that works in almost anything. I mean, I'm learning so much even in my marriage about how our childhood makes us who we are. It's like, I'm 10 years in. I thought I knew all I had to know. I'm like, wow.
I'm 22 years in, and I realize how much I don't know still.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So I think that it's, when it comes to, learning why we do the things we do, then we can address it, you know? So a lot of times, journaling is not a bad idea. Like, why, you know, when I did an impulse purchase, or when I purchase, impulse purchases are no joke, because you buy stuff and then you're like, why did I do this? Like, that thing is in a
I'm
corner
looking around the room and I see them like in highlights. I went to the grocery store and ended up with a pillow. It was comforting.
Yeah. So so then instead of using, I guess, the shopping as a crutch, we can address the issue. Like, for example, if someone, like, let's say your boss makes you mad and it makes you buy something, maybe you need to get a different boss, and then you can save more money. And in fact, when you switch jobs, so you're probably gonna make more money. So there you go.
She said it, y'all, not me. I'm just having a sea love moment. Yes, amen. Well, Prisca, what closing thought would you like to leave the Convo Lab audience about money and next steps today? Because we are approaching the fourth quarter of this year. How can we take steps to end 2023 in a different place from where we might be right now?
So first thing is to, whatever goals you might have had for 2023, see how far you are with those goals. If you're, you know, on track, then amazing. But if you find that you're lagging behind, and you're lagging behind even a little bit, then you might want to recheck to see, first of all, were your goals realistic? And then if not, if they were realistic, then how do you get to where you need to be? And sometimes that means you're gonna need the extra support. Another thing to factor in is that everybody has the power to make their lives better. I don't believe in people not being able to improve their situation. Money is not something that happens to you. It's something you have control and power over it. So you may be taking the different steps. There might be different steps you need to take that's different than other people's based on your situation, but there's always a way to do it. So I like to empower people that, listen, you can learn it, you can do it. It may look different from everybody else, but you're gonna find something that works for you if you so choose. So coaching may be a very good option for you if you're looking to accelerate your progress with your money, so that way it doesn't take you years to figure it out like some of us had to do. And if you want to as well, you know, first step, if you're not even ready to just dive into coaching, there is a lead magnet that you know, she will link for you. It's a money tracker. So it's a way for you to do this on your own. If you're still nervous about coaching, you can do this on your own. See how much your income is, how much debt you may have, list out your expenses, how much you have in savings, and then just look, is this the picture you want to look at? And then month after month, you could keep looking to see, okay, I'm improving in this area. I'm not improving as much in this area as I wanted to. And then you could adjust your goals as needed to get to where you want to be.
Prisca, I might have to call you money nurse, because just hearing those next few comments that you made, I feel like my blood pressure has gone down.
Oh, I'm glad.
Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for being so positive and helping us to believe that we can make changes that will impact our lives positively. And it is possible. I have enjoyed this conversation with you, Prisca. Thank you so much for your time. And I just want to take this moment to pray us out and thank God for the information that you have brought to share with us. Lord, we thank you for today. I thank you for Coach Prisca Benson and the wisdom that she has shared. I pray for the audience who is watching that you will touch their hearts to be wise about the substance that is in their hand, that we would learn to learn more effective steps so that we can take care of that which we already have and become an even greater blessing to those who are coming already in our lives. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Prisca,
Kayren.
so much for being here on the Convo Lab. And I want to thank viewers, whether you're here live or you're catching the replay, tune in again real soon. I've already got the next episode of season 3 scheduled. So yeah, I was out the picture for a minute. Life was happening. I got a child who has graduated high school, is now in college, and another one already in college. So we've had a really full summer. Life is good. Life is full. Life is rich. I am grateful, and I hope that you will continue to be blessed. Thank you for tuning in to the Convo Lab. I'll see you next time. Bye.